I am Maxine Bryant, Dr. Maxine Bryant, and I am your virtual professor. Now, we happen to have a person who leads these United States of America primarily by tweets. As a matter of fact, many people call him the tweet in chief. Well, one of his recent tweets has had a major impact and created a lot of buzz about the election day. Can you believe the tweeter in chief tweeter, has proposed that perhaps we need to move the election day? If I could name this particular session for the virtual professor, I would name it "Don't Be Fooled by the Shenanigans." Could it be that Mr. Trump is being his normal narcissistic self and believing that he can do anything he wants to do and run the country any way he wants to run it? Or could there be something behind the scenes that he's trying to keep us from recognizing or taking a look at? You know, there are some strategists who are suggesting that Mr. Trump is merely blowing smoke when he's talking about changing the election date to get us to focus on the trivial while something else major is going on. Now, economists who watch the ebb and flow of the gross domestic product, or the GDP, have determined that, well, they use the GDP, first of all, let me say, to determine the health of the U.S. economy. Now, our GDP fell at a 5% annual rate the first quarter of 2020, and it's expected to fall even more the second quarter. Now, that 5% is the largest rate of decline since the last recession. Now, a recession is where there are two continuous quarters of negative growth. Could Trump's banter about changing the election day merely be a tactic of distraction? That's what some are thinking. Pay attention for a moment. Now, our national gross domestic product is comprised of several factors, which include consumer spending, which is down, of course, business investments, which was on a decline prior to the pandemic and continues to go down, government spending, which has continued to rise under this president, and that seems to be contrary to Republican values. I'm just saying. And exports and imports. Now, interestingly enough, both our imports and our exports have been falling, and that means that the demand for our products remains very weak. So what I really want you to understand is that you should not be tricked or distracted by Trump's shenanigans. Pay attention to what he's not saying. Now, that leads me to something else that he's requested. He has requested, or his campaign has requested, that there be either a fourth debate, presidential debate, or that they move the debates up. They're saying that if the current debate dates, I'm going to give you what those are in just a second, remain the same, then people would not have had an opportunity to vote before hearing the debate. And that would make the election invalid, because you know he's trying to identify ways to invalidate the debate. So there is something called the Commission on Presidential Debates, and that's who President Trump's campaign manager wrote to, or his campaign people. They wrote to the Commission on Presidential Debate requesting that the debate dates be moved up, or that there is a fourth debate added ahead of the already scheduled 3 debates. I have to read almost verbatim their response to the Trump campaign. In your letter, you expressed the Trump campaign's interest in a presidential debate in early September. You state that such a debate is necessary because some states began sending out mail-in ballots before the first scheduled debate. That's what the CPD wrote. There's a difference between ballots having been issued by a state and those ballots having been cast by voters who are under no compulsion to return their ballots before the debates. In 2016, when the debate schedule was similar, only 0.0069% of the electorate had voted at the time of the first debate. So, they debunked the need to move the debates earlier. That earlier debates are not going to change the outcome of the ballots. And we all have heard him banter about mail-in fraud and the fact that mail-in ballots are going to create more fraud, and this is going to be the most fraudulent election in history. Banter, 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 false banter. Not so. There are no facts to substantiate what he is saying. Now, I do want you to know when the debates have been scheduled. The Commission on Presidential Debates has scheduled 3 debates this fall. The first one is September the 29th at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. The second one is October the 15th at Adrian Aust Center for the Performing Arts in Miami. And the third one is October the 22nd at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. Right? And they've had to work back and forth on trying to figure out where to have the debates because many of their sites really had to close down or back out because of the pandemic. Now, it doesn't stop there. The Trump campaign they tickle me. They just tickle me. On this, recently, Giuliani, who is, operating with Trump and kind of running his campaign, argued to the Commission on Presidential Debates that they needed to have an earlier debate because many states had already started. Okay, that was the argument I just talked about. He also requested that one of the currently scheduled debates be moved earlier if the commission didn't want to add additional debate, a 4th debate. He also included, now listen to this is so cool in a negative way, so cool, so dumb. He also included a list of journalists and commentators that Trump would like to have to moderate the debate. Since when has the debater said that they could, since when has the debater told the commission who to have as the moderator? Here's their response. I love it. In their response, the Commission on Presidential Debates, which is nonpartisan, right? They are neither Democrat nor Republican. They're nonpartisan. They said that they would, and I quote, adhere to our own long-standing procedure of selecting the debate moderators and will do so with great care, as always, to ensure that the selected moderators are qualified and fair. So why do you think Trump wanted to choose his own moderators? He's a hoot. At any rate, the main thing I want you to know is that you gotta vote. This upcoming election is critical. It is critical. A lot of people aren't paying attention. I want you to pay attention not only to what Trump says, but to what he doesn't say, right? So, for example, with the banter around moving the election, that's what he was saying. What he was not saying is that our gross domestic product is on a decline and that it looks like we may be headed into a recession. He didn't say that, right? That's why it's been such a push to try to open up this economy and get things stimulated again, right? Listen to what he's not saying. But regardless of who you're going to vote for, the important thing is that you vote. Your vote matters. Now, I know in our 2016 election, it seemed like votes don't really matter because Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but she didn't win the electoral vote. On one of my other videos, I explain about the electoral vote. Look at that, check that out. That can give some clarity in terms of how electoral votes are counted, where they come from, what are they, what's the process, right? Your vote really does matter. And it's been speculated that if, for example, those of you who would like to see a different person be our president, if you don't vote en masse, and if there's not a landslide, it's been speculated that perhaps Trump may not willingly step down, right? If it's a close call. We've already seen some shenanigans around the voting process. Polls are moving and not telling the voters where their new polls are. There's some confusion about candidates. Are they Democrat? Are they Republican? They're not saying, many of them are not out with saying that. Have you noticed that? Pay attention. Do your research. Let this be an equitable and fair election day as much as is humanly possible. We know that there are some who may cheat, who may try to steal votes or discount votes. Know that your vote matters. Your vote matters. Your vote matters, right? This has been Dr. Maxine Bryant, your virtual professor. Have a great day.